This is our reorganization meeting, and we're certainly grateful to see as many people as come out to participate in our meeting tonight. We're going to begin. First, I want to make sure that everyone knows this is being recorded for later broadcast. I want to congratulate Ms. Roca on her re-election and Mr. Levesque on being elected to our board. Mrs. Luck, congratulations to you and to all the candidates who stood for election. Our democracy depends on people stepping up and being part of what makes our municipal governments as well as other governments work. So thank you on behalf of our students. I know how hard you work and you get nothing for it except our thanks, and I do express that. So with that being said, I'd like to let everyone know that our first order of business is the reorganization of the committee. We're going to start with me calling for nominations for the position of chair. Are there any nominations for the position of chair from the school committee members? Nominate Heather Soroka. Nomination for Ms. Soroka. Any other nominations? The nomination?
I second the nomination for Ms. Soroka for chair.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Then under Robert's Rules of Order, having called for additional nominations and hearing none, I suggest that a committee cast a unanimous vote for Ms. Soroka to serve as chair of the Lunenburg School Committee for the ensuing year. Can someone make that kind of motion, please? So moved, we'll do it.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? And second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And congratulations, Ms. Soroka. The meeting is yours.
So now I will take nominations for vice chairperson. Do we have any nominations?
I nominate Wendy Bertrand for vice chair of our school committee.
And I second that. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? No? No other nominations?
No.
So then we will take in a vote. I need a motion to accept her.
Then I'll make a motion to accept Wendy Bertrand as vice chairperson.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And we need a nomination for secretary.
You want me to nominate you, or you want me to nominate yourself? I want to nominate myself.
I nominate Don Riel for the secretary of the Lederman School Committee.
I'll second the nomination.
Okay. Any other nominations? No, anything?
No, anything.
You're welcome, Jen. Jim,
So I need a motion. I'll make the motion.
I'll make a motion for Don Riel, the secretary of Lederman.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And then that's it for that, right?
It is.
Okay. So then I need a motion to continue all existing policies in effect for the ensuing school year.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah. A motion to authorize student activity funds for the following amounts. Primary school, $2,000. Turkey Hill Elementary School, $2,000. Lunenburg Middle School, $5,000. And Lunenburg High School, $10,000.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Just to clarify, that's the amount that can be in the checking account.
Yep.
That direct checks can be written for. It's reimbursed through the process, through town hall, through our warrant system. So it's fully transparent, but these accounts are allowed under state law with your authorization, but the funds in those accounts cannot exceed the amounts that you've indicated here. Thank you.
Okay. A motion for a waiver to allow food beverages with lids in the Lunenburg Middle High School auditorium for town meeting.
A question about that, is that just for the annual town meeting?
It is just for the annual town meeting.
Can we add that verbiage?
Yes, it should say annual town meeting, yes.
Not special.
No, because the special town meeting tends to be in the evening and it's a shorter meeting.
Yeah, you're
It's
right.
the
Okay.
annual town meeting.
Annual? Okay.
And it should have read that way, so that's an error. And you may want to either amend the motion or make a new motion.
Okay, so let's make another motion. Motion for a waiver to allow food beverages with lids in the Lunenburg Middle High School auditorium for annual town meeting.
So moved.
So moved. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And we now need to make appointments to existing committees. Official voting delegate to the Massachusetts Association of School Committees. Mr. Mackin was the incumbent. Somebody to take that over. What do you know exactly what that person does?
At attendance at the S8 conference, if you're appointed as a delegate,
Yeah.
you can vote on those matters.
Oh,
Any
okay.
of the other the meetings that they held
Yeah.
where voting takes place.
Voting,
So you're a
okay.
designated voting
Okay.
member on behalf of this committee.
Okay.
Or whoever the representative is.
So,
I would nominate Alex Roper.
second. Okay. All in favor? Do I need to take more than one nomination? or no?
You don't.
Okay.
on these,
Not on these,
You
right?
could just
Okay.
fill out the docket without individual.
Okay, let's
Then
just, okay, let's
vote
do that
the
then.
slate.
Then the
Okay.
legislative was Mr. Mackin as well. And so,
It does tend to fall
be
to
the chair, okay, so then we'll just fill in
As-
Mr.
keep
Mackin
going.
as
And
chair.
so-
Keep writing your name
Okay.
down.
I'm not going to write it down for all of them.
But those
Those three, yeah, okay. Policy, development, and review. That is,
I'm happy to.
no, I like that one.
Okay.
I'm not going to give that one up. When are you?
Oh, I thought you wanted to. She wanted to stop writing her name.
Not for that.
Not that one, okay.
So is that typically two person?
Yes.
Yes.
Wendy?
Wendy's still interested?
I am
Yeah.
still interested. in
Okay,
that.
that's okay.
Okay, sick leave bank, Dawn Marie.
Yeah, we haven't met yet. Very interested in it.
Do you want to stay on that?
Sure.
Okay. Finance committee. I don't want to write my name on that. Do we have any takers?
What was the meeting on the finance committee?
It's Thursday nights. Is it every Thursday night?
evenings. A majority of them.
I think it's
Every other?
it goes
It clusters.
seasonally.
Yeah.
You know, a bunch of time it's every week.
Right.
But I think it's every other week.
It's kind of like capital
generally.
planning, okay.
Okay, so I can do that.
Dawn Marie, you want to do that?
They televise some of the meetings.
Capital planning, that, I would stay on that one because I've been on it for the last 3 years. Okay, and I like that. Wellness advisory, Wendy, do you want to give that up?
I'm okay if someone else would like to take it. I am often late to it, so that
What time and when does
that has this year it has been 3:45 on Wednesdays.
Is that tough for you too, Jim?
Yeah, Wednesdays are tough for me.
That's tough for all of you, right?
Yeah, 3:45.
It'd be like this week or.
Yeah.
I'm okay to keep it.
I'll keep it. PTO liaison.
I'm fine with continuing.
Okay. Do we need an alternate? Do you want to be the alternate, Jim?
I can be an alternate.
Okay. PAC-SAL, do we even have any meetings on that? But we need a representative anyway?
Yeah, we need to appoint a representative.
But we don't even know when they meet.
They've been, I think, they've had a couple meetings during the school day.
Oh, school?
Because of the parents that are on the...
Right, okay.
That seems to have worked out best for their schedule, but they have been sporadic at this point in time.
Any takers for PAC-SAL?
I'll do it.
You'll do that, Jim?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, the school advisory council representatives, Lunenburg High School, that is Ms. Bertrand. Do you want to?
It actually ended up being Mr. Mack.
Oh, that's right, you
They
traded
moved
off.
They moved it to a time when I could not.
What,
What time did they?
It ended up being right after school got out, so I want to say it was 3 o'clock on Mondays was what they did this year.
3 o'clock on Mondays. Right?
But I don't know that the day of the week will stay,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
there's no guarantees on that, this is having to be what it was.
I would be willing to give it a try, you know.
Flip up.
I'll make that happen.
Okay, that's cool. And then that vacates the Lunenburg Middle School.
Which was
Which
usually
went
4 o'clock on Tuesdays.
Once a month, right?
Yeah.
I can probably do that.
You can do that, Jim?
No.
Okay. And then Turkey Hill, that was mine, that was Tuesdays at 4:15? 4. And I can keep that, if no one wants it. Dawn Marie, do you want me to leave that open?
2 in one place.
Really? It's going to be amazing. Do you want to keep the primary school? Or do you want to flip?
We can flip if you'd like to, or you can...
I don't have anybody in either,
Okay.
so.
Does that time work for you? It's 4:15, we do 4:15 in the primary school. If that's for any...
Yeah, because 4 o'clock I would be late on that one too.
So we do 4:15 in the primary. So I can definitely do Turkey Hill.
Okay. Primary school, you want me to?
I'm happy, if anybody wants it, they're welcome to it. I will take it.
You'll take it.
I just don't want to,
No.
does anybody else,
No.
does that work?
No, we
for
have
anybody
everybody's
else?
full. Okay.
Okay.
School building committee?
There are still ones that we're in closeout phase, but there needs to be a school committee member appointed to that committee.
Do we need takers?
I don't mind.
Jim, you want it? Meredith?
do that.
You can do that, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay. Diversity Advisory, Meredith.
We didn't meet this year, but I'd be happy to take it again in case we do.
Okay. Start Time Subcommittee, that's Dawn Marie and myself.
We're going to be wrapping it up.
Yeah,
So
right.
it's coming in.
Okay,
yeah.
so we can just keep it the same.
Yeah.
Reuse Committee,
I think that
Is that wrapped up?
Been disbanded.
Yeah, okay.
The final report was made.
and Lifelong Learning, that's Ms. Wilson, right? And they're presenting today, right?
They're presenting
Okay.
tonight, but-
Do you want to keep it, or do you want to pass it? Is
Um,
that going to be wrapped up then?
I think they'll make some
make some
recommendations,
recommendations.
and part of the recommendations is for the committee to move forward.
Okay.
But that would be at the Reorganization committee.
Okay. Want to keep it then? See what happens? Okay.
So,
Okay. So now we need a motion to accept all the appointments as slated just now.
All right, well, I'll make a motion to accept the appointments as slated.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, then we'll go to public comments. Do you have any public comments? No, and I don't have a chair report because I'm the new chair. We have warrants to approve and a line item transfer, correct?
we do, and Mr. Londa is here to discuss the line item transfer. And Mr. Londa, I queued up your presentation. I'll just let you know when I should advance the slides for you. I'll be Vanna.
So the line item transfer we have, this is tries to make sure that all the lines in the maintenance budget are closed out properly and are fully funded by the end of the year. We do have kind of an unusual situation that we do have a fair amount of funds that are coming out of natural gas and electricity that are available to do capital projects. We already are funded 2 so far this year, which were the 2 security camera systems for Lunenburg Primary School and Turkey Hill Elementary School. And so this presentation looks to get approval for 3 additional projects or 3 additional items that would be funded out of capital improvements. The capital improvement line is one that in the last decade is usually not funded or very minimally funded. And so what's been happening over the last 10 years is really we've been finding, as either through energy savings or primarily through energy savings, we've been able to accumulate some funds that have been able to be used by the year end to be able to fund some of these other things that we know we like to get done, and which is where we went with the 2 capital projects for Turkey Hill and the primary school. And so these are 3 other items that I'm recommending. So I'm going to step through them. As you can see from this slide, the 3 things are an asbestos abatement of some tiles at Turkey Hill. And if we have the next slide. So we have the capital approved project for asbestos abatement, which was through the first floor hallway of Turkey Hill. That went out for bid, and as I previously briefed the school committee, I was going to plan on sending this work out as alternate 1 for that work, and then we're going to include an alternate 2, which would be floor tile in the same area that the ceiling is being removed and the spray on asbestos is being removed. We bid that project. This came in, so we have a known price for this. It's at $10,901, and what it would allow us to do is to remove the asbestos tiles that are in the administration area. That would be both the principal's office, the main office, the workroom, nurse's office, and the guidance suite, as well as to remove the tile going up the hallways from the main entryways up to the classroom wing, and the stairway going down to the gym. These were all areas last year that we replaced the ceilings in, and lighting in, or some lighting in, which really spruced the area up quite a bit, but we still have the asbestos tile on the floor. Last year we did, or in this last year we also bought a counter, 3 pieces of countertop, and some carpet tile, with the idea that at some point we would try to get the carpet tile into the main office, principal's office, and into the main office. We tried removing the carpet and going over the tiles, but as soon as we started into that, we started seeing tiles come loose, so we stopped work. And we saved the carpet tiles, so we have those available. So those 2 areas, the main office and the principal's office, we would put the carpet tiles we currently have back down in those areas after the abatement. The other areas, the contractor, as part of the $10,901, would put down new vinyl composition tile, which would then allow us to go up to the area that the capital project is funding, which is the first floor main hallway. Part of the benefit of doing this, it also allows us to deal with an issue that we've had for quite a while with the front counter for Turkey Hill Elementary School, where currently it's all at the same level. If you were seated in a wheelchair and you were sitting in front of the front counter, you'd be looking at the front of the counter. You would really not be able to see over the counter and see the secretary beyond. So we do have the counters on hand to replace this. The counter would be 2 that would be about 38 inches high, and then 4-foot section in the middle would drop down to roughly 29 inches and allow for ADA. Somebody in a wheelchair essentially looks straight at the secretary, and a sliding window, which currently have, but of course is currently at a much higher level. So we would be able to get that work done as well with our own maintenance people installing a new counter, and we would do a contract for glass company to come and replace the glass over the counter. So that it would be what we would propose doing. I would recommend this as our highest priority. It also allows us to take advantage of alternate 2. Alternate 2 is floor tile in the main hall, main first floor hallway. We bid that as an alternate. When we got back the pricing, we had $162,500 available between what was appropriated in this year's capital for the FY18 capital plan, and we had $17,500, which was from the FY15 capital plan. So in total, we had $162,500 available for this project. And when we got the bids back in, our low bidder and our only bidder that was under that amount came in at $161,700. So we have enough to do the base bid, which is the ceiling and all the spray-on, and we can take advantage of alternate 2 as well, or if this part goes forward. And I think the price we got was a very, very, very good price for that. So that's the first one. We have the second slide. Okay, this is something that we looked at, and it's part of the building project. We pretty much maxed out all of our furnishings budget, and which we got, what we needed for the interior of the school. There was one picnic table bought to match the 7 other ones that we had. Those are located either side of the cafeteria. Those are very, very durable pieces of furniture, and we're getting lots of mileage on those at lunchtime currently. So this is a project or a purchase that I would recommend out of capital improvement. The amount would be $20,145.23, and what that would buy would be 11 46-inch round tables, 3 ADA tables, and so the table that's in the center is the ADA one, so there's room for a wheelchair to pull up, and then the others are 4 sets of seats around them, and then 8 32-gallon receptacles, and those 32-gallon receptacles, half of them would be used for trash, the other half would be used for recycling. So they would look differently, but generally they'd be that same shape, probably different colored, one with the label that says recycling on it. And to give you an idea, so the 8 of those comes to $3,810. That might sound like a lot, but as we were doing the building project, this came up as what are we going to do about trash cans, and we made the decision at that point not to fund any of that because they were going to cost us almost $1,000 a unit. We just essentially did the ones that are in the very front entryway of the school, and we left S as something that we would deal with later, using things that we already had on hand, plus whatever else we needed to buy. So this is part of that. Freight is pretty expensive. All the stuff is extremely heavy duty and very heavy as a result. We would look to put these in a couple of locations. 11 of them would be down on the patio area behind the concession stand. Right now there's nothing there at all. This would be something that would be durable and last a very, very long time. Each table is well over 200 pounds. Not something that's going to walk off. The other areas, we have the media center in this school has a patio out behind it. Currently there's one bench, one 3-4 foot long bench. And so it really is kind of calling out to get some additional seating out there. So, this would provide enough seating for, for 11 people. So not a lot, but it would be a great addition. It would be in such a way that we'd just be able to sit on the patio, but not really interfere with snow removal at all. So that's the second one. And if I get the third slide, the next slide, I will go over the last one. So the last one I'm recommending, this is something I guess I would say is I didn't quite really understand the need for this until some place in the middle of February. So we have the largest mid-range John Deere tractor with a front snow thrower and a cab, and that is a critical piece of equipment for us. For snow removal, we have, now with the new school, we have a lot of sidewalk. And that piece of equipment gets lots of use. Fortunately, this year, we did not experience what happens when if that piece of equipment should break and not be available for a storm. We have a lot of walk-behind snow throwers. I was not looking forward to what we would do if the large tractor broke and we had to send everybody out on walk-behind snow throwers. The walk-behinds are great and they're really valuable, but they don't work for every storm. The very last storm we had, which was a really heavy, wet, pasty snow, I was trying to operate a walk-behind snow thrower and it just pretty much was just bouncing up and down and wasn't cutting into anything. So this piece of equipment would be, this would be on a much smaller piece of equipment than what we had, but it would be, a piece of equipment that could be used for sidewalks as a supplemental piece of equipment. We would try to get more mileage on it. One of the problems we have with cutting grass is we have one mower as well. It's a big mower, another very large piece of equipment. It's a 10.5-foot cutting deck. It can cut 8 acres in an hour. So great capabilities. Has no ability to bag whatsoever. And when we first took over the front athletic field at this school, we kind of realized we had a problem right off the bat. If we had a maintenance problem, broken belt, something that needed to be replaced, and the mower was down, or we didn't have enough people to operate it for some reason, we wound up having the grass grow faster than we could just mulch it if we just drove over it and started piling up on top of it. So this is an attempt to try to get us the capability to be able to ensure that we have redundancy for both snow removal and mowing grass, to give us the ability to bag, and it would push us along the path of trying to be able to take care of our own athletic fields. We currently have a contract that we're just started into on May 1st. That'll go through November 30th of this year. And that's with a local contractor. He's cutting grass on the 3 athletic fields. This will put us in a steady to pick that up in the spring of next year and be able to do that ourselves. So that's the equipment. The cost, $22,558. It has a lot of various components. The one component that I know is expensive, that I think is just a prudent thing to do, it would have a cab with a rollover protection. And we do have places, not many, but we do have a few places where we could get in trouble on a hillside, and so having rollover protection just is a prudent thing. We did have one opportunity to roll the tractor this year, about 6 o'clock at night, in the middle of probably the worst storm we had. We had the large tractor get off the sidewalk over the outdoor classroom, and we had a 2-hour recovery operation to get that vehicle back out without rolling it, which was successful, but was certainly a big problem for us at that time. So rollover protection, it's expensive, but I would recommend we have it. And then the mower blade, there's an option for a front blade or snow thrower. I think both of them would be prudent. Either that or just try to go to a larger blower. There's one that's just slightly larger than that can be attached. But this is the kind of piece of equipment I think is prudent because it gives us redundancy, and redundancy is really important because things break, and when they break, if you don't have something else you can do, it would result in either a delay in opening schools. So I think it's a prudent thing to buy. So those are the 3 items. To be able to do that, the line item transfer request transfers out of maintenance of natural gas system and electricity into the capital improvement line. The other items on here, we would look to transfer money from maintenance of building supply to maintenance of building contract. That would allow us to be able to get in place a contract for an asbestos project manager to do the air testing and ensure that the project is going according to the HERE regulations. So that's the three projects, and this is why I put that together.
Can you just tell me how much the contract is with the local contractor, the local lawns?
It's $15,000 and doing all three fields. It's not just mowing though, there is some fertilizer going down and some aeration. We do have an aerator, so we can do that, and we have spreaders. We do need to step up our game as far as our skill set for people taking care of fields. That is part of it, not just equipment.
Right, okay.
I think it's doable. We've always had the ability to do this before.
My question is back to the site furnishings. 11 of those tables, when you're talking about putting them outside of the media center here, how many are you thinking outside of the media center?
So it would be three. It would be two that are with 4 seats and one that would be ADA compliant.
Okay. The only reason I'm asking that question is because I'm thinking about 8 of those $1,000 picnic tables down at the concession stands, which I agree that we need. But then I also think about that being used for student use during the day, and that obviously if you're saying that the students are using these tables, we want to make sure that that's going to get used not just for events but during the day, that our students are able to access them. So is that something that students are using during the day, or is it just the outdoor classroom tables that they would be using, or is it just a once in a while event that they would be using?
Well, the outdoor classrooms are, doesn't have any tables, it's just seating.
Right.
We have whiteboard and they do have Wi-Fi. I don't know, I haven't looked to see if Wi-Fi access reaches all the way to the concession stand, but it's probably pretty close. But the tables would, they'd be available. I think we would find students out there at some point because it's a fair amount of seating.
Are the 3 tables for the outside the library area, is that the maximum amount of table space? Is that pretty much
I
fill
think
it up,
that's
or?
about it for, it's not that big of an area.
Right.
There is one bench already there, but it's a small bench.
And then I can't quite tell from the picture, and obviously we're not purchasing umbrellas, but do they hold umbrellas? Is that the area I'm trying to picture?
They would have that capability, and, for us, I think the problem we would always face with umbrellas is, putting them down and impact the wind. So they would have, a hole for an umbrella, but...
I know when the librarian had spoken to the PTO about perhaps funding something like that, she was also speaking of umbrellas and shade in that area. So being familiar with the area, I was...
Yeah, if the librarian wanted to do that, but you would have to, so the care of it is because if the wind comes up, somebody's got to go out there and put it
She
down.
might be interested in that in the future, but if it has the capability of holding it, then it's still an option.
Yeah.
The only other question I just had, I'm sorry to keep talking about picnic tables, but are there any other needs for these kind of furnishings at either of the other buildings?
I think this is something that, we don't have anything really at Turkey Hill. We have some very portable things, but they have not held up real well. They're low cost, but they just didn't hold up. The primary school, I think, has one wooden picnic table. So the other schools do have a need for these kinds of things too.
Okay. Because I just would, for future reference, say that while I do appreciate that we want to continue to add things here, that it would be equitable to make sure that we're sort of spreading the wealth throughout the other schools in the district. So, just an idea.
This is a rather unique opportunity this year, given what's happened with the natural gas and the electricity and the solar project. I know the trash receptacles, we need to provide many opportunities for everybody everybody to dispose of things where they need to be disposed of. And for the things, once they get in there, to stay in there as well. So I see that as a really enhancement and maintenance. Mr. Londo looking at redundancy seems very important, and the opportunity to now that we've lived in this building for a while, we know that snow removal presented us a lot of challenges, and I appreciate his efforts to figure out ways that we can stay ahead of that and keep everybody safe in doing that. That rollover was most concerning this year, definitely. So it's rare that we have this opportunity. I can't make another recommendation on repurposing these funds any other way. If there were instructional materials, for example, that we needed, etc., we would make that recommendation to you. But this has been what Mr. Londo recommends, and I can support his recommendation. We would make the appropriate notices to the capital planning committee as we did with the security cameras, if the committee approves of this as well.
So I'm looking for a motion to approve the line item transfers. Make a motion to approve the line item transfers as presented.
Second?
All in favor?
And the form itself, I'll pass down. It's 2 pages.
Okay. We have minutes. Did you all get the minutes?
Yes.
Do you have any comments? Were there any comments?
I didn't.
No, I didn't see any.
Changes or
Okay,
anything.
so then we just accept the minutes. Superintendent's report.
Yes. Well, once again, I want to thank everybody for coming out. This school year's quickly coming to an end. I do want to remind everyone that on Memorial Day, assemblies are going on across the district on Friday. Those are open to the public. We do ask folks to check into the office if they are going to join us, and we do encourage you to do that at 8 o'clock. Actually, some will be outside. At 8 o'clock or around 8:15, the middle school will have their assembly out in the front here around the flagpole. At 9:15 in the high school auditorium is the high school assembly. Turkey Hill Elementary School is at 9:30, weather permitting, and I think there's rain in the forecast. They'll be at the front entrance or in the cafeteria otherwise, is that correct? In the gym, okay. And then at 1:30, the primary school will have their Memorial Day observance in the gym. So once again, if you would like to join us, if you have a veteran, if you have a family member who gave their last full measure, we ask you to join us so we can honor those veterans and those that have been lost in service to our country and our democracy. And I really appreciate the students and the administration and the music department for always putting together some very meaningful ceremonies. This is a real firm tradition, important tradition, and I really commend everyone who participates in it to help us all remember the sacrifices that have been made. I know the town's Memorial Day service is on Monday. Is it 10:30 or 10? Phyllis, do you remember?
I think it's at 10, but I'm not sure.
Okay. And it's up there across from the
Eagle
Memorial Park, across from the senior center. And I know a couple of our students are going to be participating in that ceremony as well. So many ways for us to go out and show our appreciation. Seniors had their week of finals, and I saw several smiling faces today, several that were finishing up. We're looking forward to baccalaureate on Tuesday, and then on Thursday, an awards assembly, and just a week full of graduation. We're planning on graduation meeting in front of the new stadium on the new fields, weather permitting. Mr. Spadafino has the pleasure of making that call, And he will need to do that by Thursday because of the setup of over 600 chairs and the rest of the podium for the graduation. So we really appreciate our seniors who have been such great leaders and the first graduating class from this new facility as well. So it's very exciting time for all of us. So lots of year-end celebrations taking place. The middle school is doing something a little different this year. I think there's a lot of enthusiasm around it for the students to have an outdoor, I think it's a movie.
Big blow-up screen.
Yes. And so just a way to put a positive note at the end of a very positive school year. So I know we have a very full agenda, so those are the things that I wanted to highlight. Thank you.
There is no student rep. She is playing lacrosse.
Yes.
School building committee, that's you, Jim.
I can help you out with it if you'd like.
I'm sorry?
I said I could help you out with that.
Yeah, I would need some help with that. I know we're close to close out.
Right, exactly. And at the last, probably the last meeting of the committee until a final closeout meeting was held 2 weeks ago. And what was addressed at that meeting was the snow guards for the roof. So that project's moving forward. The drainage for the student parking lot has been addressed. And that remediation done. The tennis nets go up on Friday, Mr. Londa, is that correct?
That's what we believe, yeah.
And that, weather permitting again. But the surfacing, finally, we have the number of days of the kinds of conditions they need to do that. So the tennis courts are down, the basketball courts are down, the lines for those, and the surface, as well as the pickleball courts lines are in. So we are, basically at completion in terms of everything for the project at this point in time. And as Mr. Macken would say, on time, under budget.
Empty taglines ever.
Now we're on to the field house with Mr. Iannacci.
Thank you, Bill, for your patience.
No problem.
The others, they were here before I was. It's just
Good evening, everyone. Bear with me a second. I do need to give thanks and praise to my personal Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, because He has bestowed many blessings upon this project. And I do mean many, and a lot of them are here in the room today. I remain humbled and privileged to lead this project and to have met and interact with a lot of the community businesses and people in the community. I also am very thankful for the partnering relationship that we've had in the school committee here. I think not only are we doing a great thing, but we're doing it the right way and sending right messages and doing the right steps. I am thrilled to report that the A.J. Robbins Memorial Foundation has received labor donations for every bit of work that needs to be done on the activity, has received a lot of material donations, and has raised funds in excess of what's required for the balance of material to get the external and internal construction complete. We continue to fundraise to furnish with whiteboards, audio, video equipment, and what have you, and also to create the sustainment fund that we had talked about. So we're ready to go. I will go through the details in here so that hopefully by the end we all agree we're ready to go. I just repeated the mission page so that you'd have it. I do want to spend a little time on the purpose page because this was always very important to me. And if I take a moment and share some stories about the 5 areas, the first thing that we had wanted to do was create a teaching message to replace the sadness and tragedy. And if you remember the message, it's life choices have consequences, be wise and help each other. That message has rung out to people in the community. And as an example, we have Christine and Steve Randall here, who own Flying High Farm which is an animal assistant and a regular psychotherapy facility. That message rang out to them, and they reached out on their own to me. Steve called me, and they have made a $7,500 donation from Flying High Farm to the project, but the teaching message is resonating with people. The honor the memory of AJ was an obvious one, but the benefit of meeting people you don't even know who actually have a story about AJ has been wonderful. The wall of remembrance for all past and future individuals, which we hope we are going to minimize the future with the teaching message. That has actually been very heartwarming for me. I placed my number in some articles that have been out in different papers, and I've actually received phone calls, and I'll give you one example. There's a wonderful woman in Lunenburg. I haven't met her face-to-face yet, but we talked on the phone. She called Mary Perkins. Her son died in 2015 in Lunenburg in an automobile accident. She also then shared the stories, so she shared that story. She shared the stories of two other children or young adults, Stephen Hamilton, who died in 2010, and Zachary Quinn, who died in 2012. So just that process of being able to listen and share those things and say a little prayer with people has been incredible. And Purpose 4, rally community together to build a sense of unity and love. So I have several examples there. The first one, and I love this one, I got a call, again, just out of the blue, I didn't know, from a woman who walks every day. And I still haven't met her, but I'm assuming she's, older than me, let's put it that way. Her name is Lois Lewis, that's her real name. And she called me and she started talking to me. I walk every day, and every day I pass that site, and it tears my heart. And I saw the article, and I saw your number, and I called, and she made a $50 donation, which is fantastic. Mary Beth Alt reached out to me from that article. She's now become one of the crew. She's been active for the last 4 or 5 weeks along with Scott and others who have been going to all the small businesses and seeking donations. Lynn Walsh reached out. She put together a fundraiser from the Booster Club for Lacrosse. She's going to be doing this. They raised $1,200. That was a talk about community event, and I went to it. It was 2 games. It was the JV and varsity girls. There were a lot of people. They had raffles. They did the 50-50, everything raising funds and the food for the foundation. And both teams won too, so that made it special. I guess it was the only close game the varsity girls have had. They went to overtime. Just barely tied it up at the end. So it was a great night, and there was a lot of community there, a lot of spirit together. She's also going to be doing the same soccer, field hockey, and basketball. And Joe Weigold is going to be doing the same fundraiser for football. So none of that is included in my estimations of fundraising. That's future fundraising. And the Football Booster Club did give $1,000, plus they'll be doing the fundraiser in the Football Booster Club. The student experience, I love kids, so I'm around them a lot, whether they want me to be or not. And I think it's really starting to hit home that this is going to be a real thing that is there for them. And I make sure I point out the message part and the other things. So I think it's going to be a great thing for the kids. So thank you for letting me do that, because those 5 things were the most important to me in doing this. The next page is just a repeat you've seen before. I just have it in here. Just a note, the measurements in parentheses, that's the exact measurements from the final architect drawings, so that it matches correctly and ties in. They went and did all the formal measurements with the existing structure that's matching. So in terms of the project status on page 5, so we've completed, obviously, the conception and the alignment of the school committee. The final architect drawings from Tate Architects, who again did that gratis. They were the ones who did the school, and they did this gratis. That we got the input from John and others. We made very few changes. We got the final output back from them. And now, tonight, you're finding out that we have all the labor and material and fundraising needed for the internal and external structure. So we're sitting here today at what I call phase 3, and I broke it into an A and a B, which is agreement to go forward, for me to get the permit, and then to let shovels go into the ground and go with it. I do want to have a dedication ceremony that I'll coordinate with whoever I need to coordinate with to have something on the school property once this is complete. We still are actively pursuing funds for actually more than 2 reasons, but the 2 reasons relevant to this field house for the audio, video equipment, whiteboards, lockers, things like that that have to furnish the facility. And then obviously the future sustainment, so if the roof goes in 20 years or whatever, that it exists with the fund that we have set up under, remember, the Community Foundation in North Central Mass. We set up a A.J. Barnes Memorial Foundation, 501c3 under that. We are also going to be fundraising for scholarship purposes too. The family wants to do that. So once we get through the big push of the heavy fundraising, there will be yearly events that raise money as well. So this will be each year, there'll be a few things that will be more fun-oriented, people paying to go see I can't remember the name of them, but they're like the Howland World Brothers, and they can come to a gym and they do fundraising on that. So it'll be community fun events to raise additional money each year going forward, so we're creating a sustaining fund here. On page 6, in regards to securing the area. So the existing fence, the portion that is in the area, the work area, we will take that down and store it. I just suggest in the utility room of Snack Shack, but we can store it anywhere the school wants us to store it for reuse, because portions will still be needed when it's done to tie off properly the ends. There'll be some extra, but that ain't a bad thing. Steve Powell wanted to be here tonight. He had a conflict. He's going to be, he has 8-foot-high security fencing, so we'll be setting it up. The back wall will be the 4th leg of the rectangle. So, and I talked with John about this. We'd have the fence go like this and come into the Snack Shack, so that we have the whole area secured and locked, so that curious creatures don't go in. In terms of the detail status, I mentioned the architect drawings, the permit application pending the vote tonight. All the site work, pre- and post-structure build and materials have been donated by Dan Proctor and Steve Powell. Dan is here tonight. The forms and labor for footings and slabs have been donated by Arsenal Foundations. That's Steve Arsenal. He actually has twins in middle school. The concrete and related materials currently being procured through the funds we have. That's estimated at $3,500. The reason I have that and a few other things in red, if I am actively in negotiations with somebody to convince them to pay for this, it's in red. So I won't mention their name because they haven't committed yet, but there is a local vendor who I'm close to getting this to be zero, which means that money then moves to furnishing and sustainment as we go out. All the framing material, minus doors and windows, so to get the whole structure up and sheathed and ready to be roofed and everything, has been donated by Turnkey Lumber. They were both going to be here tonight, but JetBlue took care of that. They're opening another company in Orlando, in addition to Lunenburg, and they got stuck or delayed in Florida. But Giuliano Fernandez is the owner, and Eric Nano is the yard manager. Eric actually is at the airport getting them now, but he got stuck. Giuliano got stuck in Orlando. So they're donating all of that material. Various framers and framing labor are being donated by Dave Pajari. He is here tonight. He'll be the lead framer. All the roofing and roofing material is being donated by Bob Barry of Rockwell Roofing. He's here tonight. The exterior doors and windows, there's 6 2-foot awning windows and the double door entrance, and then we put in the emergency exit, even though it's overkill. I wanted to keep one in. Those are currently going to be paid for out of the fund, but I'm very, very close on a very, very local company donating that one. I hope to get the sweep on that one, but we have that money allocated. The siding and trim currently is being procured under the fund. We will be approaching someone. They have not been approached yet to see if they could donate. That's $4,500 that will be paid for out of the fund as of right now. The siding installation labor is donated by Brian Robbins, who's here. He's AJ's uncle, Scott's brother. I do have an update on this, but actually the class of 2017 is going in a different direction. I wish that I had insisted on briefing this to them because I don't think they have understood that it was the wall. And it would say, you know, class of 2017 donates wall of remembrance. Because I think the way it got communicated to them was that it was going to be a plaque on a wall on the inside or something. And that they would just give funds, so there's going to be money. Now, it's not a big deal that they're not doing it, and I hope that they embrace whatever they're doing and they're excited about it. I have a few other people who wanted that. I have been holding off because personally I thought it would have been awesome if it was the class of 2017, but it isn't. So I'll move forward with the other, there's a few others that would like it, so I guess I'll put that in the hat and do it that way. But that's not a major thing anyway, and it shows it on the picture, by the way, as brick, but I'm thinking we might go with a flat stone type of thing. I got to talk to an expert in terms of how we make sure we get the metal plates and the names securely fastened to whatever we put up there, so we'll do that. So that's the external will be complete. On page 8, the internal, the electrician labor is donated by Pete Burns Electric, and he's here tonight. The rough electrical supplies are donated by Concord Electrical Supply, and that's the supply store that he uses. Plumbing labor is donated by, and Sean McNiff is a plumber in training. I wrote down the name, and I don't know where it is, so I wrote Sean McNiff's report.
Brian White.
Thank you, because I know he has a daughter,
Yes, he does.
and I did not want to put the wrong name.
Sierra Hepler. She's graduating this year, class of 2017.
Okay, so,
Yep.
yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So, and Sean was actually in the vehicle.
Yep.
He was a passenger. Rough plumbing supplies will be purchased through the fund. That's $300. We have a lot, so I want to try to make as many people feel part of it, want to be part of it, but you can't ask an unskilled person to frame a roof or do whatever. But there are things like putting up insulation or hanging wallboard where under certain guidance a lot of people can do. So we have a lot of people who want to say they were part of it. So for the insulation, that's one area where we have many volunteers, and we'll probably split them between that and hanging the wallboard. The insulation currently is going to be purchased, estimated $1,500. By the way, a lot of my estimates are on the high side. It's just how I do it to be safe and to make sure we have a little bit of buffer, and I do the same thing with the timeline that we'll be getting to. The plasterer labor and board hanging coordination is donated by Tom McNiff. So that's Sean's father, and he's a plasterer. Blue board materials we're currently purchasing, although I do have a letter into a local company that's got to go to their corporate headquarters in Atlanta for permission, but we have the $23.75 for that right now. Painting is another area where we can have people participate and feel very much part of the project. The painting and materials is $14.25. There's another place later on 2A that's thinking of donating all the paint, all the Benjamin paint, so if that happens again, we move money. Scott himself is a floor installer, so wherever we may decide to put rubber flooring and maybe a bottle on the top, whatever. The finished carpentry labor has been donated by both Brian Robbins and David Picari, both there again, as I mentioned earlier. The light fixtures, there's 16 recessed lighting the architect put in, and there's one external light, and then there's the smoke detectors, and there's the exit signs by the 2 doors. All that, $2,000 will come out of the fund. Sink and toilet, same thing, $1,000 will come out of the fund. The interior doors, the same person who I'm trying to get to do the windows and the exterior doors. I'm trying to get him to do the 3 interior doors, but that would be about $900. And all the base board and trim, $1,000, and then I put some miscellaneous hardware at $350. So that all comes to $22,350. We're a little over $25,000 currently funds raised. That does not include any of the additional fundraisers I mentioned. It does not include, I am briefing the Lions Club on June 13th, and I think we're going to get a very nice donation there. It does not include Buffalo Wild Wings has donated. We haven't picked the night yet. We're going to try to make it be like a high sport night where we get 20% of all proceeds for one night. So it does not include anything that's future. It's all stuff that has happened that we have now. And I have a couple of other potential $5,000 investors. Suggested timeline, if we approve tonight, I will get the permit pretty quickly, definitely by the end of May, but probably even by the end of this week. And we would do the security fencing and site work would be 1 week. The forms and concrete pour, I allocated a week for that. And I pad a lot of the timelines because in case of weather, and also we're all doing this in addition to our jobs. So I'm not going to assume a perfect head-to-tail lineup of each task, so build in time for slippage. Framing, we put in 2 weeks to include the doors and windows installed. Roofing, we put in a week. Siding, trim and signage, we put in 2 weeks. So some of these, just so you realize, the framing, if we had the crew together, it's probably 3 days straight, if you had 3 straight days, but I put in 2 weeks. Siding, probably 2 straight days, I put in 2 weeks, so we're building some flexibility. But I do have the rough electrical, rough plumbing would be in parallel with the siding as well as the insulation. Once the things are closed, we can work inside while the final siding is going on. So once the windows are on, the roof's on, you don't have to worry about destroying anything inside. Now the board hanging a week, and skim coat plastering a week, painting a week, and then finish electrical and plumbing a week, and I'd have the trim and the base board installed. So about 4 weeks of pad built in, maybe a little more, but I'll call it 4 weeks of pad built in, 11 weeks to get the whole thing done. That's everything, finish electrical, plumbing, toilet, everything's working, painted ceilings, painted walls. And then the focus, well, actually the focus right now with another group is still doing fundraising, and I'm still doing that as well. So that I believe by the time we hit this, we'll be past the funds needed to get some nice video, audio equipment, whiteboards, and I want to sit with Pete McCall and a couple of coaches on lockers. You can go really, really high end, and there's some benefits. And you could go make your own or do whatever, so I want to explore the different options. In terms of the real high end, you're talking about, having a locked area that you can program numbers, so people, if you're at the wall, when you're changing, you can leave. These aren't permanent lockers, right? They'll be open. They're definitely going to be open because I don't want the smell that's in the locker room now going over into that room. So there'll be good ventilation of the lockers. But if you go into most locker rooms, they're usually like 2 feet wide and 1.5 feet, and they're usually open. So if you have an area where you can secure wallets, the last page here, and second to last, this is not an all-inclusive list. This is just from people reaching out to me. These are names I have in years of, who I think would be candidates to be immediately on the wall of remembrance. And I'm sure there's many others. The only one on this list that I knew was obviously AJ. I did not know any of the others, but I've been contacted by somebody who's been touched by them or a family member of these, so I have them, and I'm just keeping track of them. So the 3 I mentioned earlier were Hamilton, Quinn, and Perkins, then you have AJ, and then obviously Kevin Souza, the 9/11 tragedy, and Miles McCaffrey. I have a few people reach out to on that one in 2008. Questions? The other pack's just for you to have.
Right.
It's just a copy of the architects.
On the wall of remembrance, you have tragedy touching the schools. I know we've had some teachers pass away.
Yeah.
We've had some other people involved in the school community pass away. Is the intent for students or alumni or?
Yeah, so what I did, and I made it clear at the beginning, is this was at the discretion of the schools. So by putting these names, it's only me trying to help at the beginning, saying, I've been contacted by these people, right? But I think in order to make it fair and right, the being at the discretion of the school who goes there, but we did talk about it being teachers and other people who have made a difference, and then the school or school committee, however it ends up being, would have final authority over the names that go on.
I think that's a policy to be developed by the policy committee.
I was just curious what the initial intent was.
I had a question of how the construction in that area, because the timeline's happening quick, school's ramping up, how would that impact the school and the other athletic events that are still going on and whatnot? I don't know if Brian might give it.
If you think of that area, it won't impact any that area right now is the black fence with grass behind it to the back wall of the snack shack.
So we're able to fence that area off safely for people to still do what they need to do.
You won't be blocking the road that goes in, and you won't be blocking the gate and the walkway area. It will be within that, so you'll still have the walkway area that when you go through the gate, you draw on.
No, yeah, no,
You know what I'm saying?
we can imagine.
So when you go through the gate and walk
Yeah,
to the front of the snack shack, that will still all be open, and you'll still have this door is currently in existence in the snack shack.
Yeah.
So you won't need to even go back that far. You'd still be able to get in that door. I don't know why you want them, but you can still get in that door and the door on the other side. Because you'd be going out like this.
I'm going to add to what you're saying, just in terms of material delivery, things like that. Where is all that? Is that all going to fit on the site that you're building on, or are you going to need additional space outside of the site that you're building on in order to store it to pull from? Does that make sense to you? You know what I mean? Which is fine. I'm wondering if it needs to have a bigger area fenced off. I'm just thinking about the summer camps we have going, and all of those kind of things that we have upcoming this summer, which is kind of your timeline.
If you go to page 6, this black fence that's there now, the left wall actually is behind that fence. So the wall of remembrance, that wall is actually fully behind that fence. This side comes out. So all that area in front of the fence, which we will block off because we'll come out to the walkway with the security
There won't
fence.
be the building there?
No. The
Okay.
building will be behind on the left, it will be in front on the right, but we'll have all this area, and we won't deliver, you won't deliver lumber until you have the foundation complete.
Okay.
Right? You will deliver stone and sand as needed when Dan and Steve are doing their site work.
Okay.
And then you won't deliver the shingles for the roof until the roof is done and sheathed, and then you bring it in. So no, we'll have plenty of room all in this front area that's grass right now before the walkway.
Okay, great.
Now, we will have to get concrete trucks, right? And delivery trucks, so we'll have to work that.
And we'll just have to probably reseed this when it's...
Well, that would be our problem. I look at it as that's part of this problem. Right, to me,
my follow-up question.
Yeah, no, we want this area to look beautiful. So when it's done, so the site work includes work before and work after, pre and post.
You've done a very thorough job, and this is it's a fabulous presentation, but it's a testament to your commitment to AJ and
to the community.
And the community. I'm very impressed, everybody who's contributed and all of the people who have contributed not only money and services, but the time and energy, and just to volunteer and even just to give the $50, like you said, the lady walking by.
My favorite one.
It's very impressive, and I'm proud to be a resident of Lunenburg tonight, to be sitting here and be able to suggest that we go ahead and grant permission.
And I know, I want to thank Mr. Ianchi as well as all the businesses and tradespeople that are here and that are making this possible. It truly is a labor of love and remembrance. And I know Bill has been working with Mr. Londa and will continue to do that. I think our assumption was that graduation will be over before fencing goes up and those kinds of things, and that's within the timelines, of course.
Yeah, we work all the time.
Yeah. So, it is just a spectacular project. And out of so much heartache for something that for years to come will continue to serve the community and the students of the community is very poignant. And it's about what we're all about, and being human beings and taking care of each other and sending that message of taking care of each other.
So you want to have a dedication right around the football game?
Yeah, whenever we think it's good, where we can get the most people.
I'm sure we'll see you again.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll give status along the way.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
I'm going to take a motion to...
Make a motion to authorize authority to proceed with the construction of the AJ Robbins Memorial Field.
I second the motion.
All in favor, right?
Aye.
Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Two.
Okay, I'll go get her
So
presentation.
next on the agenda, I'm actually going to introduce this piece. As I served and worked with this committee, the Lifelong Learning Advisory is here to give our presentation on all the work we've done this year. This is Jen Judkins. She has our chair.
Before we get started, we don't have a copy of it, is that right?
We have digital.
We got a digital
We all got it,
copy.
okay.
Yep.
All right, great. I put a short...
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, we got that, yeah.
So there's a bunch of links inside, so I want to make sure you have access to that.
There it is.
It's got 1 minute. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for allowing us to share out the work that we've done for the Lifelong Learning Committee. And Bob is here. He was part of our committee, and the other committee members are listed for your reference. One of whom is having a baby any day now, Abby Bryan. We had a really lovely group of people, and it was great for me because I'm new to the community, so it was a nice way to meet some of the members of my new hometown. So we're going to just share, there's a link on there for anyone that may be interested in accessing a copy of this survey. Of the digital copy of this report. It's available publicly for people, and probably linked to the sort of online as well.
Absolutely.
So just to remind folks, we had a charge to look at the development and implementation options available for some sort of lifelong learning program that would serve the community, and that program would ideally be self-sustaining. And so our reporting out was supposed to be to evaluate community interest and to look into other community programs and what might be involved in getting this sort of off the ground. So that's what we're here to do today, and share some of what we've learned so far. So we did some initial research. We were really fortunate to connect with 5 different community programs, all very unique, but there were some common themes that we'll share out to you today. But those detailed reports are available for you, linked to this presentation. But we're going to share that, as well as we did a community interest survey where we sent a survey out to folks in the Linfield, in the Lunenburg area. Sorry, I work in Linfield. So anyway, we're going to share the results of that, and some next steps and suggestions for where we might go next. So the survey that was sent out was distributed. Hard copies were available at the library and at Eagle House, and then Superintendent Tom sent it out a number of times to families as part of mailings that she does digitally. So we had almost 150 respondents to our survey, and you can see in the picture here kind of the distribution in terms of age grouping. So we had a nice spread of responses, so that was helpful because we wanted to be able to look at a range of adults. You know, we have different ages that might be served and interested in the programs that could be offered. So in putting together the survey, we tried to think about categories of offerings. These are, of course, more enrichment type of offerings, not classes in a formal sense. So we as a committee kind of came up with the different categories that we thought might be of interest to people, just to see if there was interest on the part of the community in those areas. So you can see there's a variety of interests that people had, and I think in talking with the programs that we interviewed, a lot of it is you offer things and that's where you figure out if there's interest or not based on whether people sign up for classes. But it looks like there's fairly even interest on a variety of topics is what we were able to ascertain. We had asked people about scheduling, and when we asked about scheduling, we were focused on evening or weekend availability of people. And the reason for that is because our thought was to use this new beautiful facility, and that would be the best time that it could be available for these types of activities. So people were flexible in this. Most people were interested in either option. So whether it's evening or weekend, it seemed like we had about half people that would work for them, and then weeknights worked for some. And so where you're seeing weeknights and weekends, that was only what would work for them, and then many people felt like either choice would work. And the programs that we contacted, these are all hyperlinked on the digital copy if you want to look at the notes that we took as a group. We kind of divided and conquered and talked to a bunch of different community programs, and they were the Alpha program right here in Fitchburg, and the Acton-Boxborough Community Ed program, Medway, Northborough, and North Brookfield were programs that we contacted. So as I said, we definitely noticed that there were huge differences between the sizes of the programs and the budgets to the programs, but there were a lot of common themes. And so just to make things a little easier, we kind of bulleted those out as a group. We certainly noticed that there was a need, and it makes sense that there needs to be some sort of dedicated person that would coordinate programs, and then that can even grow into staffing, of course, depending on the size of the programs and what types of things fall under that category of community education. Everybody talks to us about the time involved in building it, starting with something quite small and then growing into these, when we called and heard about the sizes of some of these programs, we thought, oh my goodness, that seems really big. And then we hear, okay, well, it's 11 years in the making, or, when I started it was this small. And so this is a process to build. There's seed money, understandably required to kind of get things started. And so that can be attained through school district allocation, or some were funded through grants and things. And many of the programs, many of the larger programs and those that seem to be self-sustaining and quite healthy financially, were those that provided youth programming under that community ed umbrella. And these could be things including, some had a daycare program, some had driver's education programs, all under this community ed umbrella. More commonly, though, it was things like vacation week programs, summer programs for school-age kids. In some cases, it was after-school programs, things like that. So this all, for many of the programs we contacted, fell under the umbrella and allowed for the funding of the less profitable and not as well attended, sometimes smaller programs that were for adults. So we just wanted to share that because we definitely noticed a trend there. And what was really great is we were sort of getting towards the end where it was time to share out to you folks, and we thought, boy, how are we going to even get this off the ground? This seems like a lot to do without having a budget, without having a dedicated person right now, and we could plan for a couple of years ahead, but boy, we really see a need now. And around the same time, the Alpha program stepped forward and said, hey, we really could use some additional space. They, of course, serve retirees. Their programs run in the daytime only. However, they were interested, they came to us talking about possibly the Passios building as a daytime option, but they were also super flexible in what this could look like. And we had the pleasure of having a representative come to one of our meetings, and she was, just clearly really open to what this partnership might look like. When we met with the Alpha representative, she mentioned to us that, at least from their standpoint, they of course have funding and backing through the university system. So they already have in place all of the logistical supports. They've got secretarial staff that are supporting, taking in these registrations, sending out brochures and things like that. And of course, that's something that would take a lot of time and coordination and be difficult to do right away, but they were looking to do something, fairly quickly. If we were interested in providing space for them to use at no cost, then they would provide all of the logistical support, and they would, as you probably know, their programs are not expensive for people. They would be offered, at their regular rates to our community here, but also open to other communities that they serve. And but our interest was also, well, what would this look like over time? Is it just going to be Alpha on campus here in Lunenburg, or can we sort of partner with them in a way that helps us as a committee and perhaps someone going forward with understanding how to develop a program over time and benefit from their experience? And we were quite open to that, and really thought that there was a lot of value in the things that we wanted to accomplish, but there were places in which our goals were sort of separated somewhat from their goals, and they were fine with that, but willing to kind of work and enter into a partnership with us. So based on that information and the feedback that we had from these other programs, what we're thinking about and would like to ask you folks about is looking for a partnership with Alpha, which would begin in the fall. Now, they would need to hear from us by like the first week of June, so hoping for your feedback about this tonight, and then coordinating with Superintendent Combs about space availability. But given that short timeline, they were just talking about maybe a couple of classes being offered here, and then just seeing what happens with that. They would, again, they would handle, that would go into their paper catalog, which would be handled by them, that would be sent out. But then we are also encouraged to continue to provide mailings through our, as you've been doing, Superintendent Combs has been providing lifelong learning opportunities for folks, and we can, market those in that way as well. There's no conflict, and they were fine with that and encouraged that. And because this would be something that we kind of want to evaluate what it looks like and then what happens moving forward, the committee as a whole is willing to continue. So we're, wondering if you would like us to retask for 2017, 2018 to be able to gather information about this partnership with Alpha, and then continue to do some more research to provide recommendations going forward. And I think we have one more. Got it? Okay, and then so we were thinking about possibly reporting out around December timeframe, December, January, just depending on when the classes run and end. We just want some time there, but to be able to provide the school committee with some interest, what was the level of interest in those programs, how are things going with Alpha, what do we think might be needed to further develop lifelong learning programs for our community. So that concludes our report, but happy to answer any questions if we can.
Thank you for a thorough report. That was fantastic. My only question is, looking towards the fall, would Alpha be looking at offering day classes or evening classes?
So they were looking at day classes. They said that their mission is exclusively day classes. However, we would continue to find opportunities for evening classes, and our goal would be to continue to grow that piece because that's something that there's definitely an interest in the community. We did not investigate community interest in those daytime programs, but certainly we know that those would be mostly attended by retirees and not hit some of the other adult population that expressed an interest. So, in terms of Alpha, their mission is fairly clearly defined, so they would be targeting those types of programs. But they also are very willing to connect us with the trainers and the folks that present for them. And if those people have an interest in offering an evening program or a weekend program, then we're welcome to tap into those people. So these are the kinds of benefits and connections that I think are kind of a really nice opportunity for us, and one that we were pretty happy to hear about and wanted to share with people.
And also Superintendent Combs, when that survey went out, we also sort of took the pulse of people who responded around, did they have something they could potentially be an educator in? So we have sort of a talent bank in the reserve. So if for our evening things, obviously from the Alpha piece, they have their folks that they work with on a regular basis. So daytime would kind of be covered. But if we want to look to expand, there's a few classes, that we've had in the evening, what could we offer different, or, how are things working? So there is that talent bank.
I do appreciate the idea of having, the mentor piece, of having the Alpha program, which has been widely successful, and having us follow that lead so that we can set up a sustainable program and be able to have something that we can follow along for ourselves.
Next, one of my follow-up questions would be if we would have access to the infrastructure of Alpha with the scheduling and the back office, basically, if we were to have some of these experts in our talent bank do the evening classes.
So I think that's something we can ask them. My understanding in us meeting with them, and maybe you can speak to this too, Bob, was it sounded like they were really interested in targeting retirees in the daytime. However, they did say, well, we've explored maybe like some vacation week programming where grandparents could attend with kids. They had some flexibility. So I think until we ask, they don't know. They were certainly fine with us sort of branding with lifelong learning and distributing out that way, so we could, on the same flyer that Superintendent Combs distributes, we could certainly have the Alpha programs alongside the ones that we may choose to try to run internally, and then but whether they would handle like the registration piece and stuff, I don't know the answer to that. What is your thought, Bob, after talking?
Well, from what Lisa said, she's pretty flexible about anything that we wanted it to be. It wouldn't just be Alpha. It would be what we felt we wanted from them, they could supply us. And I think she said even if they didn't come in to teach, they could still offer a kid that was trying to do marketing and whatnot, that type of support.
Yeah, they did make that
tapping into some of
their...
They're an offshoot of Fitchburg State
Right.
University.
But I would imagine even with their generosity of helping with some of that management, when we started getting bigger, they couldn't keep sustaining us. We would have to go on.
Yeah, we would have to self-sustain.
Yeah,
I think that's
the idea is for us to learn and grow, because that was the one thing that I really thought, foolishly on my part, that this could run almost as simply as a summer camp program, and it doesn't. It is going to need a life of its own and take a few years to grow into something. So I think they will be great mentors.
Where the cutoff is, will they take those evening
Right, how long will
classes?
they hold our hand and what, yeah.
Right. And just the back end support, I think, is something, just having that infrastructure in place that we wouldn't necessarily need to learn ourselves immediately, because as you mentioned, it might take eventually a full-time person just to sustain the maintenance of the program.
And I think that's a huge part of it, is that we're not working with a budget currently. So, the pieces, in talking to these other towns, they were very clear on their path to success, and one was that it didn't happen overnight, 4 or 5 years before they were turning any profit. And then, at that point, having that dedicated employee or /employees, most of them have one coordinator, was key. But again, when you're growing, you start with someone part-time, you start with, whatever. So, I think Alpha is willing to try and work with us to help us. They want us to be successful.
With our reconfiguration and we don't have patios, it's not ours anymore.
Yeah,
So what facility?
That would be a conversation with the town manager and the board of selectmen, because they have the control over that building. We talked about 2:45 starts in
Yes.
using this facility, and they do some of that with the Fitchburg Public Schools, but it was clear from that conversation that the main interest was during the day. And so I think the Passios building really does come into play here. We just would have to have that conversation with the town, or facilitate that conversation between Alpha and the town.
Quickly.
Yeah, we have to do that before
They're
law.
needing
There's
to-
no money to.
Yeah, quickly. And they made it clear, too, they have no revenue to pay for the facility, so they are looking for a facility to be provided at no cost.
It's the barter system.
Yes,
Absolutely.
exactly. yeah.
But, and generally, how long do these classes take? Because you're looking at possibly coming back in
Yeah,
December
we
to
should
report.
definitely, the first set of classes would certainly be through at that point. They're typically only,
6 weeks, I believe.
4 or 5 sessions.
Yeah.
Like a weekly session thing?
Yeah,
It
and
varies
they
depending on
they
the
start
class.
kind of late and they end kind of early because, even then, I had thought, oh, did they start like in August, end of August? She said, oh, no, our retirees don't show up until, so it was a little bit of a later start,
So they're about 6 weeks. I actually, somebody who works for me at the gym has been doing Alpha forever. So they generally run like 5-6 weeks in that time frame, once a week, sometimes twice a week, depends on the program.
Well, I'm just wondering if they don't start until October, is December enough time to come back with findings?
I mean, I don't know. I think what I'm wondering is, do we want to try to, at this point, sort of pencil in and check in at that point, and we may have to communicate with, through Wendy that if we need to push it out, right? But it's possible that we might have enough information to answer some of the questions you brought up today, as well as, just get your approval in terms of like continuing to offer programs for the next session. So it's up to you. The group as a whole is willing to continue for the next school year, so we could also just wait and report out at the end of that time. I think we're pretty open.
I'm definitely willing to have, to start a partnership with Alpha, at least to sort of test drive this for the fall and see where it goes. But as Meredith said, we don't have the funds to. So
They don't even have a facility right now.
if we can negotiate the ability to have a spot for them to go, or if you can talk to them and they can have a class at 3 o'clock or 2:45, and that's comfortable, then we can accommodate them in a space, then I'm all for it, let's try it. But the fact of the matter is that Passios isn't an option, unless we facilitate that conversation. And that's not necessarily going to happen before the first week of June, is my, cautious.
I think it depends on what order you want to go with. If you would like to proceed with exploring this partnership and its fullest expression with Alpha, then we would be on the phone tomorrow morning first thing with the town manager, asking about that possibility. We're introducing the concept and start moving the project forward, basically.
So then presenting to Alpha, we've got Passios at this time, or we've got
We'll let you
this
handle
time,
it.
and
Let you handle that.
Yeah, and they seem pretty flexible about exactly like
Okay,
start and end time.
sure.
So I think we kind of say to them, here's what we have, and then we.
And I mean,
take it from there.
in reality, we're asking for that from, in sort of like the capacity of we're trying something new, we're starting something out, we want to build something in our town that is for town residents, and the town residents also, our senior citizens in town, also have accessibility to the program, to Alpha as well. So it's not that it wouldn't be a benefit to other people during the day to be able to have something very conveniently located at Passios. So, or here.
We have the benefit, I think Passios would have the same kind of restrictions as our other schools would have running programs during the day, but with Black relocating, as well as our extended day and early learning program being relocated back to the primary school, that building is no longer operating as a school, and so all of those things that would give us pause in terms of opening the building for these kinds of programs won't be in existence. So it's certainly something from the school's perspective that if the town would be supportive of this, they're not talking about 15 rooms in operation. They're basically talking one room a couple times a week, maybe, if that. So the impact, as I understood it from Alpha, because they're not talking about running tens of programs here. They're talking about offering a few programs.
Yeah, they're not looking for a satellite campus.
Right. They're just saturated on their campus because Fitchburg State was using all their facilities. So they just continue to explore out the satellite areas.
And I think they were also thinking that they would draw from towns that are closer to this area, and they felt like that would also be a benefit to the community that they serve.
Can you try it?
So it's I get the point of order. Are we voting on one asking for authorization for Passios as well as extending the committee?
Yeah.
Two different things.
Yeah, because we have to find out from the town manager if Passios is even an option before we move forward.
Well, I think the two actions that we need in order to continue to move forward is reauthorizing and coming up with another charge, but not necessarily tonight, of the Lifelong Learning Committee. Moving forward and getting more details about the Alpha partnership and how to formalize that, including the availability, if any, of space in Passios. So those would be, in my mind, the two action steps that if the school committee says this is what we need you to do, I will start working on it.
Yeah, we need to see what Passios, what capability could have with
Right.
that, or what Alpha could do with a 2:45, 3 o'clock
Right,
time here.
exactly.
Right.
So I think we need a motion to proceed with next steps, which are the questions that we've been addressing.
I just have one quick comment, and that is that it's not just limited to Passios, I think. I think like a lot of the classes I saw in Alpha was like one was on snowshoeing. So what can't we offer up the Cottery lot in 2A, or if somebody wants to offer like bird watching or whatnot. So those are some of the facilities that I think that we're not thinking about also. So it may not just be the school, it might be other facilities that we have in town.
So how do we make that motion to proceed with?
I make a motion that we proceed with partnership with Alpha for lifelong learning.
And investigating next steps.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So you're going to
I will
reach out.
First,
Somebody write that down.
And also police start because my sense was that Alpha, in doing this, may want not a lawyered-up contract, but some kind of memorandum of agreement of what was going to happen between the parties. So we'll start working on those things. And then the other thing is the continuance of the
lifelong learning.
along with a very hearty thank you for the folks.
A hearty.
But do we need to figure out what we're doing first before we do charge them? Do we then make a motion for the continuation of this? And are we going to
Or is part of that charge based on the information that we come out of?
It might be.
Right?
Yeah.
next.
So
for
we
the
shall
next
wait,
meeting.
yeah.
Stay tuned.
That's future. Okay. But
Extend
thank
the
you.
current committee for one more meeting?
Yeah, we're going to wait on that one. Yeah.
2 years to show up for this one.
So, we always.
I mean, we always love this. I never have this many people.
But let me get my homework done and
Okay.
Yeah.
we'll
Oh,
let you
I
know where
will
we're at.
see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're always welcome. We always enjoy it on, and it is the retirees reception, which
Yeah.
I neglected to say,
Yeah,
if I may,
6:30.
at 6:30. And I'm getting ready to, I think I'll wait till after the Memorial Weekend is over to put out a superintendent's update talking about those things. My sense is that everyone will be more apt to look at it in their inbox if it comes on Tuesday.
Absolutely.
And I just wanted to thank Ms. Junkins again for, volunteering as a new resident in town. And
And a
doing
very
such
happy
great job.
parent of 2 teenagers who are just very content in their new school. So I'm very grateful and happy to give back.
And Bob for allocating some of his master teacher hours to help us with this because we really needed that support, and I'm very much appreciative to Bob for doing that. He was our meeting poster, minute taker, and those kinds of things. And the other members of the committee and Wendy, and for everybody's, it's been very exciting advisory to be part of it. And we still have a ways to go, obviously, but certainly a good team around that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you very much.
Madam Chair, just real quickly, I had asked, and then I also forgot that, Mr. Londa to brief the security cameras, since he was going to be here. They're like screen over there. Well, it's relative to their buildings, and Mr. Londa won't be.
They're fine.
Okay, quick.
We're fine. We started at 6.
I know. You should.
Take a little nap. Take a little nap.
The
I just go quickly.
Yeah, very quickly.
the camera project is underway. We have had all the volunteer labor by Mr. Patrick Callahan to run the cabling, and we've had Signet on site on Monday and today. And so cameras are going in. We probably will not be complete until sometime about the mid part of June, I would suspect. But cameras are going up, but we're not recording anything just yet.
Okay. Well underway. Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Londa, well done.
I don't know, that's why you're sitting here with me.
Oh, you figured out that's why you stayed?
Yeah. Okay.
That's what happens when
Yeah.
one tries to hurry because the agenda is so long.
It is. So now on to the fiscal year 18 primary or elementary school improvement plan. Who wants to go first? Mr. Hamzer.
I guess it's me. Superintendent, I had, so
I can put it up there. Which do you want, your handbook or?
well, yes, I didn't print out a copy of the handbook.
We got a
have it
copy.
digital.
Yep,
We got
Well,
It looks great.
It looks great.
It looks great.
All right.
Check.
The highlighting was very helpful.
That was
Yeah,
like
me
that,
too.
honestly, that was
Absolutely,
awesome.
but
The highlighting was very
That.
helpful, thank you.
Good. So, yep, I feel that the changes were very minor. I tried to highlight them. Mr. Levesque actually pointed out that right there, that on that very page 2, we need to change where the meetings of the school committee are held, right? So we have to update that, so I'm going to add a little highlight to that one.
And also, just to confirm, it's third Wednesday, because today's the fourth Wednesday, and I just wanted
It's
to
the
make sure.
second,
My calendar was
it's the second and fourth.
second and fourth.
First and third.
Oh,
yeah.
First one's at town hall,
This is
second,
off
the
cycle.
second one is here.
So
We're
we're
off
off.
cycle.
Yeah,
This
Okay.
is an off-cycle one because.
All right, just double check.
So
Thank you.
first and third. I think most of the other changes were extremely minor. So the biggest one was around the wellness committee, really trying
The
to,
allergy.
Yes, exactly. Put in place the language around the allergy-safe classrooms, that all of our classrooms would be considered allergy-safe, that students who bring snacks in the morning, they would have to be allergy-safe snacks, and that for our celebrations, they would be limited, and they are now already, to once a month. And any food that's brought in would be, the ingredients would have to be listed and verified by the classroom teacher that they were safe, and encouraging the vegetables and fruits and salty and sweet, I guess it was. And do you have any questions? I mean, since you've all had a chance to look at it, I don't feel like I need to go over it step by step. Yes? Tiny little one?
Yeah, it was just a little question, just because I was reading it very quickly, and maybe it was in another section. So I was reading about the report cards, and that they're in January, April, and June. 5th grade receiving theirs in November, so that part was highlighted. So what happens for grades 3 and 4 in the fall? Is that just
So everybody has a parent conference in the fall, but traditionally, 3rd and 4th graders don't get a report card.
So not a document per se.
Right, although many teachers like to have something on hand, and so some sort of progress report that happens. And I had tried to kind of standardize that for all 3 grades, that we would do it that way, but 5th grade, which traditionally did have a first term report card, really pushed that they wanted to go back to
So,
that.
and while primary is here, is that how K2 does it as well? So K
Right,
to
they only
4,
have the
K to 4
January,
that way.
the second, third, and fourth term. Any other questions? Great.
Is that for public comment?
You
have a question on the handbook?
Just a quick question about the snacks thing.
Yeah.
I know you said that the teachers have to make sure the snacks were all right. Do you ever send them to the nurse? Because we used to send them to the nurse.
Right, so I think they'll come in the front office first, and they'll have the list of ingredients, and so probably, yes, we could vet it through the nurse first, just to make sure. Yeah.
And the nurses were heavily involved in this policy.
They were.
They were their
Yeah, but
representative.
it feels like an odd thing for a classroom teacher to...
Have to check.
Yeah, right. I mean, obviously, if it's really simple, if it's celery, yeah, but,
Yeah.
you know.
We're going to encourage really
Yeah.
simple, right? Because otherwise it gets too complex.
I think our procedure has been that the teachers, the nurse works with the teachers at the beginning of the year in terms of how to read those labels, what to look for, etc. It's been a practice for 3 or 4 years now. But if the teachers have a question, then they gain the support of the nurse.
And if it doesn't come with the alpha label, they can't eat it. It goes home. It goes home with the person who wrote it. Children cry. Yeah. Children cry.
We try to avoid that. Okay. And for the school improvement plan, I believe that I presented this in the fall. Remember where, right?
Yes, I remember.
New configuration, and so this is just an update because I know that the Strategic Visioning Committee has been working on a new district plan, and so we want to make sure that our goals are aligned with that. So when that is completed, then we can add to this, right? So the first goal around the academic piece, focusing particularly on math. So we won't get our results until late this summer, I believe, is when the first scores come out. And again, this is a new MCAS 2.0, so I'm not even quite sure how clearly they're going to compare it, right, to last year's MCAS. Some of the strategies that we have in place, especially in this new year, we're going to have dedicated intervention blocks at each grade level. So the leadership team's really been working with me on the schedule, and that, so every 3rd grade class will have like a 45-minute, hopefully, intervention block that will be dedicated to working in small groups, differentiating for students, both to help the struggling learners as well as to provide some enrichment activities for the higher end learners, right? So that's it's already built in now to our new schedule. We're also hoping to use the superintendent just offered the other day. There's a computer program called 10 Marks, which provides differentiated instruction for math. So we're really hoping to pilot some of that, but I need to make sure that, as a teacher who will commit to using it consistently, because we want to see if it's effective, right? Again, to help struggling learners and to challenge our higher end students. Okay, so the second goal is continuing supporting the social emotional needs of every student. There's 3 of us who will be attending the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence this summer, so picking up what the primary school started. Okay, so we're going to go to the Anchors program in July and bring that back to staff. We have had some professional development really focusing on the behaviors that support learning, which are the first part of the report card, and how we use all our available resources for students before we give them a poor mark, a 1 on the standard, that they don't have those behaviors. What are we doing to make sure that we've given them every opportunity? Are we accessing our guidance counselor, our special education teachers, our administrators, our BCBA, all of the people who can help, and so that students can learn those habits and embrace them to support their own learning. We also, we have full-time guidance counselor since January, which has been wonderful. She's with us. She certainly supports this goal. She has several small groups throughout the week that work on executive functioning skills and social pragmatics and problem solving, relationship building, what elementary school is all about. And finally, the third goal, it's specific to the first year. I feel we've done a good job on several of them. The 2 at the bottom, establishing and maintaining effective feedback for teachers through a regular loop of observations and post-observation conferences. That's really my goal, my responsibility. Started on it. I'm a work in progress, right? So how many observations I can do. Need to be in the classroom as much as possible and really providing feedback for teachers. So that really continues for me, and hopefully will be a strongest theme throughout my career as an administrator. And then articulating beliefs about our identity as a school. I think that's the fun part. That strategic visioning committee, the mission statement talks about helping children develop passion around their learning. I'm really drawn to that word, as I know my fellow administrators are. And so starting to talk with staff members about what does that mean? What does that look like? And what is their passion in education, and how can they convey that, model that for children? Gave a little speech at the school advisory council around that. So that's still a work in progress as well. Okay? Any questions? Thoughts?
Thank you. So we just need a motion to approve the handbook, but just acknowledge the school improvement plan in the report.
I'll make a motion to approve the elementary handbook.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
How are you? Thank you very much for having me here tonight. Here to talk about, again, the parent handbook, and I can basically say ditto. So I developed or worked on mine just before the vote that took place this past Saturday. Congratulations, everybody. So I will update the committee and make sure that the correct names are with the appropriate appointments that were provided for everyone.
You can see it's the whole committee that's in it. Our school I'll start with the handbook.
Can I make one, since we're on this page?
Sure.
I noticed on the elementary school handbook, there was some language about what the school committee could do and couldn't do relative to complaints. I thought it might be nice to be consistent and have that language also in this
Okay.
as well. Just to offer some consistency
You're
across
talking about the
board.
procedural part of
The procedure, how
contacting
parents
teachers
have a
first, then you're going to
concern.
get
Yes.
right steps.
Yeah, no, I
Right,
noticed that.
it's-
Okay. Elementary. It wasn't, I thought it was in the primary.
Complaint process.
Yeah, the complaint
Yeah.
process,
Yeah.
which I thought might be helpful
Yeah.
to have that consistently displayed across the schools.
Yeah, and certainly talk to the teacher.
Okay, so I'll grab that language from Heidi and put that in. Again, we made some word changes in those highlights. Some of those highlights are for parents, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Some highlights for parents
To
to kind of pay attention to no flip-flops in school and to pay attention to, the pickup and drop-off procedures and things like that. So not all the highlights that were in there were the changes,
Yeah.
okay? It's just the highlights for parents to notice where they really need to be thinking about flip-flops and pickup lines. So the major changes were in the area of life-threatening allergies, school procedures around peanut and tree nut-free areas. So in the wellness policy, we talked. I kind of bulleted some of the guidelines around celebrations, the developing appropriate guidelines for foods and beverages, and the nutrition education information as far as how we don't use food for reward or punishment or those kinds of things. We articulated those a little bit clearer. And the same that Heidi had talked about as far as the celebrations. They've always been limited to one per month. We're talking about the same kind of, 4 choices, 4 items, no more than 4 items, with the focus of the celebration being on activity versus food. Okay? We have even the second grade, when we were talking about all of these changes at the leadership team, went back and started looking at some of their curriculum-related activities that they do related to, studying ancestry. And that always involved a great big huge spread of food from all of the different countries, which was always wonderful. But they've already started to articulate what that's going to look like next year. I did say to them, this policy is being worked on right now. We're not going to change anything at this point in time in the year. But I do want you to at least put out that information about making sure that they're not bringing in any kind of peanut or tree nut products for these events, that they're making sure that they're even looking at, thinking about the utensils and the equipment that they're using, and making sure that it's peanut, tree nut free. So all of those kind of discussions happened, and all of those kind of notices went out, and in fact, in the second grade communications to parents around that celebration for this year. And next year, they're going to be looking at it and maybe highlighting 1 or 2 individuals to bring in something from a country versus having 4 products from Canada or 5 products from England.
Or
So
Ireland.
that type of thing. So they'll be limiting that to those kind of guidelines that are being brought forth by the Wellness Committee.
I did have a couple of things on here that weren't clear to me. Under the guidelines for celebrations, the third bullet, model health food choices, is it healthy or healthful?
Healthy.
Healthy, okay. And then the first bullet under nutrition education didn't read right to me. And again, it might be just the red and the bolding and all that stuff. But is that including teachers and staff? And the use of food as a reward, or not using food as a reward?
Not using.
Not using food as a reward, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, after you said that, it made sense.
Right.
It's hard to tell when you're redlining.
Yeah.
What it says.
The flow of the sentence will check.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll work on that.
And that was really all I had a question about.
Okay. So that's it on the handbook. Unless there's any other questions from the committee? We're going to look here. Look at our school improvement plan. Again, our school improvement plan had been written for as a 2-year plan. The school advisory council met the last time, what was it, 3 weeks ago? Yep, about that. And it was agreed that we would continue this 2-year plan into the next year, that I would talk about those things that we accomplished this year and move them up to our reality. So those things were moved up to what our reality is.
That's what I saw.
And then, making sure that we articulated clearly what those steps were that we were going to be accomplishing for this year. We, again, will also look at the strategic plan once it is finalized, and then the following year, we will be implementing our school improvement plan to continue to go along with the strategic plan that's been developed. Many of the things that we have in here are very closely tied to a lot of the items that are already in the strategic plan, so it's going to really dovetail nicely and move in the right direction. So we're currently ending our first year, and we've accomplished a great deal, I believe. I wanted to recognize the dedication of our teachers and staff who stepped forward to participate in a variety of different ways to accomplish our set objectives. From sitting on leadership committees, curriculum committees, to acting as facilitators and instructors, providing professional development activities, to taking the lead in learning about new technologies and applications made available this year to our teaching staff, and just really had a lot of people step forward to make sure that we were accomplishing our objectives and moving our student learning and staff learning forward. So it really takes a village, and we have a strong village. So on the goal 1, it was focused on academics and focused on science, technology, engineering, and math. In ELA, the kindergarten and first grade implemented the Lexia reading program as a Tier 1 intervention for all students, with a minimum of 1 hour per week of students focusing on improving reading skills using that application. And that took a number of staff members really getting to understand the teacher platform in there and making sure that they were moving children forward in their learning and activities. They have a breadth of information and activities available for students if you have a child who's struggling with a particular concept. So teachers needed to be able to know how to access that and be able to provide that for their students. For technology, for the past 2 years, teachers have worked to improve lessons and units using technology at least in 2 academic areas to enhance instruction. And so they've embedded the technology right into their instruction, into their units or into their lessons. Teachers have accessed the iPads and the netbook carts that were made available to us and scheduled time to use them in their classroom, not only to use that for student learning, but also for students to show or demonstrate their skills. First at the mid-year, and second graders throughout the year utilized netbooks to practice basic typing skills. So first grade started in mid-year, second grade's been doing it all year long, and using an application on the netbooks to learn how to type correctly and what the home keys are and all of those kind of things, so that they're not just using their thumbs right now. Teachers have embedded technology use into 1 or 2 lessons or units as well throughout this year, and we'll continue to build upon that. So We just asked them to do at least 2 units. Next year, we'll add another 2 units as well as, moving them forward. In math, during the 2016-17 school year, teachers had professional development to develop working knowledge of online resources for everyday math to assist in improving student learning. Teachers set up their classrooms for everyday math online, allowing parents and students access to the online resources to enhance student learning. And teachers received professional development working knowledge for the online resources. So we had Mr. Sparks really dive deeply into what's on these sites. After we exhausted our initial training through Everyday Math Foundation, the program, he stepped in and really delved in deeply to talk about, how do we set up our classes, how do we make sure we move our units forward, and he's spent several early mornings being available for teachers to help them learn that platform. Social studies, teachers worked through the 2015-16 school year to develop the curriculum, and this past year have worked through making sure that the units are developed and the curriculum map is developed, and they're following that and building units as they go along. In science as well, the science curriculum task force was in play for this year. Our teachers participated on that. And we've had in each of the grade levels, first and second grade, teachers doing team teaching to teach the units in science as well as social studies, so that they've each taken on an area that they have built expertise around that area, taught that unit to every single classroom. And that's another reason why it's so important for us to make sure that our classrooms are allergy-free, or not allergy-free, but peanut and tree nut-free, because our children are now moving around the building and to different classrooms. So we don't have a choice but to make every classroom peanut and tree nut-free. Let me see. I don't want to talk about everything. There's been so much. Let me see. So coming up this year, we're going to be making sure we have the common assessments developed for science. We're going to make sure our curriculum maps are clearly articulated and posted at the website. We're going to develop new science units and lessons, making sure that we're following the newly developed curriculum, and also making sure that we have the materials and the resources to be able to teach the programs with integrity. Continue to work on our technology as well. We have a number of different steps set up to have, like I said, have teachers develop 2 more lessons in 2 more areas of the curriculum where they are embedding the technology to enhance student learning. Goal 2 was the next one that I'm going to report out briefly on. Our teachers participated in 15.5 hours of PD during the 2016-2017 school year, focused on responsive classroom. They studied 2 programs under responsive classroom. One was called The Power of Our Words, and the second was Morning Meeting. We developed those professional developments on our half days, as well as 1 faculty meeting per month, to make sure that we were able to not only have our teachers review all of that responsive classroom strategies and techniques, but other staff members. Our cafeteria staff came in to several Power of Our Words professional developments, so that this is something that is language that our whole staff is aware of. How do we talk to children? How do we work with a child? Using positive language to elicit stronger learning and stronger commitment, and to develop the habits of mind, and that we are so highly focused on at that grade level. pre-K through second grade. Then we also focused on ruler. We rolled out the emotional intelligence ruler to our staff. Again, another 15.5 hours of professional development was dedicated to having teachers learn about ruler, having teachers learn about what a charter is and how to develop a charter, learn about the mood meter and how that will help enhance our students' vocabulary. And we slowly went across that whole process and learning platform just with our teachers and rolling it out with our teachers and staff using the program with each other. Next year, it will be rolled out to our classrooms. We also are sending another staff member and Mr. Adams to the Yale Institute of Emotional Intelligence to bring more information back, as well as strengthening our initial team. My feeling is you need to make sure you have a nice, strong, broad base. Some of our summer work will also be focused on developing the curriculum for the classroom, setting up curriculum maps, and working on how we're going to roll this out into each classroom in the first 10 to 15 weeks of school, so that our students will be coming home and talking about what a mood meter is, and maybe even asking you to develop your own family charter, which is how we would like to live and work and be together each day, and how you want to feel. It really helps our children to understand what emotions are, how emotions guide us, and how we can then shift ourselves to be more present in our learning. So I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a great learning opportunity for our students. I can't wait to see some of the innovative ways that our teachers decide to roll this out to our students and get them involved. And it will be a school-wide supported program. So I'm really excited about the rollout of the rulers to the students next year. And parents, because we decided originally in our plan we would do a 3-year plan on that, roll it out to our staff, roll it out to our students, and roll it out to our parents. But the research is truly showing us that it needs to go out to the parents the same time that it goes out to the students. Yeah. So that'll be something that, like I said, they'll be coming home and asking you to take a meta moment if you're not handling some situation in the proper way.
I don't have any primary kids.
Take a meta moment.
Take a meta moment. So we'll be working on that. And the last one was our communication, to improve our communication across our websites and how we communicate the activities that occur in our building. One of the biggest things we worked on that wasn't necessarily completely articulated in our plan last year was our report card. That's a huge piece of communication that goes home to teachers or to parents several times a year. And we had a committee that was working on that during the summer last year. The first report card went out in a timely manner. That was got that one out. Working with Carrie Cooper in the front office to make sure that everything looked perfect, and that all of the errors that Dawn Marie found in some of the report cards were fixed and set and ready to go. Again, it takes a village. That we've actually done a survey as well, sent that survey out, had that posted at our website for parents to provide us with some feedback. The leadership team will be going over that survey this coming week, as well as the School Advisory Council will have a chance to look at the feedback that we received. We received 45 responses from parents, so we're hoping that a few more will respond. I'll send out like a deadline, maybe that will help them, encourage them to take the I think it's only a 6-question survey, so it's really quick.
Just to write that in the subject.
Yeah, it did.
Only
It did.
It only takes 2 minutes.
It only takes 2 minutes. So we'll encourage people to try to get a few more responses on that. But teachers also worked on their websites and making sure that their websites were operable. From the website, many teachers had other websites that they had developed, but they had never been connected to the main website. So we've gotten all of those little bugs fixed out, and now we have all up-to-date, working websites. So go ahead and check it. And they not only did they make sure that they had 3 things in common, each one decided a 4th thing that they would like to add as far as a bit of information for teachers. So that was the goal for this past year that was accomplished. And you know, we'll continue to, moving forward, having teachers have some time during the year to check their websites and making sure that they're updated. One of the big things we did is we talked to teachers about, well, if you're not going to go in there on a regular basis and update dates and years and times, then you need to make it a little bit more general so that you don't have to do that. So those are the kind of things that they worked on this past year. We're providing a weekly communication with to parents as well in a newsletter form that goes out in an email. And I'm gathering feedback from the School Advisory Council all the time as to, you know, 3 swipes of the wheel is all. Most parents will move through. Link, right? Brief clippets, and we're working on shortening those up and making sure that they're communicating what we have to get out there, but also being brief and quick for our busy parents. So that's a summary of what we've accomplished and what we're working on moving forward. Any questions about the school improvement thing?
No, actually, I was looking at this format. I really like it. It's very comprehensive, all the things that you're changing. And you have so many things changing at the same time. How are you going to tell what's working and what isn't?
We have a series of data that was actually Marie can attest to. The original document contains all the results as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got a baseline that you're measuring against. Okay.
So we have the results. We'll be adding our end of the year results as well from this year. And then that will be attached to the back of this document as far as this is how we're doing, so that the School Advisory Council will continue to look at that and be able to spot errors or things that are not working. And
obviously a lot of these are also relatively soft. They're not anything that you can pinpoint a number on in terms of, you know,
like percentages.
Yeah, in terms of percentages. It's, you know, enhancing their participation. I don't know how you measure that, but and I'm assuming that's all part of these other curriculum changes that you're making. You know, how do you measure the passion or the student is going to be nearly impossible to figure out. But do you have an idea of how you want to at least gauge that?
Well, if you look at the section as far as the completion and, you know, what are we going to do if we're not seeing the results? You know, then you know, for example, in the academic area, then we're going to be looking at our RTI supports. We're going to be looking at our, you know, we're going to do an item analysis. We're going to use our results model and make sure the teachers are really pinpointing where are the difficulties, and is it curriculum, you know, is it, you know, what's happening. So there's always ways for us to evaluate that. And you know, if we're not making the 90%.
Well, there's a lot of moving parts, so...
There are a lot of moving parts.
I wish you luck being able to keep on track of it.
Okay, so we need to make a motion to approve the Lunenburg Primary School handbook, correct?
I make a motion that we approve the Lunenburg Primary School handbook.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
With those changes, right?
Yes, with those changes. With the changes.
Including the ones for the...
So that you're going to make.
That you're going to
We're making. Are you going to leave?
Thank you.
not over yet. Are you leaving? Really? Okay.
That's what I was
Thank you so
wondering.
much.
But we
Yeah, but she wasn't.
Yeah, Jen. Yeah, you can leave too, Jen.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you though. Everybody leave at some point, except for Phyllis. Phyllis always does. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No.
Superintendent, are you going to give us the information on the trip?
Yes. I have a presentation actually that the students put together.
Oh, the students?
If we could, I post that down. Mrs. Beardmore wasn't able to be here because she has a class, but she did send, and we're anxious, she's anxious to be able to see if you will provide her initial approval for the trip.
While you're pulling that up, I'll just comment, I really appreciate the effort that staff goes through to put these things together. The coordination, I know, is complex, and so I really appreciate people being able to step up and help provide this opportunity for the students.
And that trip is being constructed, so it's visits various cities in Europe, and so therefore students of Latin, students of Spanish, students of French will have an interest in being able to participate in this. Maybe I should just send you this link, but...
Is it what we got already or no?
No, this was actually a movie, and I was looking for it.
It looks good.
I thought it had downloaded, but...
Oh.
Hi, I'm Tristan. I'm Kevin. Sorry. So we all went on the recent Europe trip, and we're going to talk about some of the things we loved. So what I loved was southern France. It was really beautiful, and when we were there, you really had the freedom to kind of walk around and explore on your own, which I liked a lot. Just like today at the Point du Gard, we got to kind of go out and do our own thing, which was a great time. One of the best parts of it, walking around, just being able to see the cities, random moments, stuff like that. Because you're surrounded by people speaking a different language, you can just snippets of it, and just confusing that with occasional words. You know, that's pretty cool.
I thought it was interesting to see all the history, because their history spans much farther than ours does. So just seeing all the ancient buildings, and definitely going to the Musée, the Louvre. I love that.
It was fantastic, of course. Everywhere, on the street, in the restaurants.
Gelato.
It's like exploring the country with your friends and stuff. That's what's fun.
Oh, very nice. Okay.
The anticipated cost of this trip right now is around $4,400. It doesn't go out until it's slated for 2018, June 21 through June 30th is what it would be, a 10-day trip.
And that's the initial early.
Right, that is.
How many kids?
Yeah, how many kids can they take?
You know, I
I didn't see that.
It was a minimum of 6 for, so I know for Iceland it was a minimum of 6, and the last trip that didn't go through, that was Italy, was 6 also.
So a minimum of
A minimum
Do we have a
of 6.
max or no? We don't usually hit the max?
It was chaperones above. You need to just have enough chaperones. I think every 6 kids you had to have a chaperone.
Okay. Okay.
If it works, I'm assuming it works like the previous trips.
Right. And it looks like a fantastic trip.
Yeah.
It really does. Yeah.
So the recommendation is for the initial approval to gauge the interest, and it is a hefty price tag. I think they do.
They do have
yes.
payment.
They have to put down a deposit, and then they can make regular contributions.
It was a nominal deposit. I did it for Iceland. Nominal deposit, you paid monthly, you could do an EFT.
I know. Yeah.
$200.
Okay. 200. Okay. So do we have to make a motion to approve it?
Initial approval.
Initial approval. I'll make a motion to have the initial approval for the LHS trip to Spain.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Okay, public comments. Bill, if you waited this whole time. Okay,
Like
no
almost
public
leaps the back.
comment. Do we have any reports? Anybody? Well, I'll be quick. PTO met, I don't remember what date they met.
They met on
They met.
Monday the 8th.
They met. And we are in critical need for people to step up in positions. We have a couple of positions that are open, and we need people in them now. Most of the current volunteers are ready to cycle out, and they really need people stepping up to start to learn and feel comfortable with taking on those roles for the following year. Next meeting is on June 5th, and we really need people to come and start finding out a little bit more and being more active in the PTO.
And that's here, right?
Important. Yes, it's here in the project room right now. Do you want me to keep going?
Wait. Nobody else, wait, capital planning, no, right?
I have a school council.
School council, you have one?
Strategic visioning, anything?
No.
No? Okay.
I can tell you that the core team has been working with the consultants. They had 3 meetings, and the consultants are putting together the final draft to move it forward for your consideration.
Okay.
So school council, you have one?
I have one for the middle school. We just met this week. One of the highlights of that was the middle school schedule and the input of something called Genius Hour. Apparently you can Google Genius Hour and find more information about that. But basically it's an exploration for students to see what they're interested and passionate about, doing research, maybe it's in music or art or robotics. So there's going to be a time of day each week for students to explore those passions. Anybody else have any meeting? Council meeting? No. No, did I? Policy subcommittee, we haven't met. Wellness advisory?
We did, very briefly, more food allergy policies and a great look forward to what we wanted to spend some time focusing on next year.
Okay. Reuse is Jim, but I don't think you've been to any meetings yet. No.
I haven't.
I think reuse has been disbanded. They've completed, yes.
They're totally?
Oh,
okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
they
reuse-
gave their
reuse
final
was-
report
Oh, that's not you, okay.
to the Board of Selectmen and
Okay, so we're done.
School building.
discharged.
We'll take that off the agenda.
We will.
And we already had the update from lifelong learning. So topics for future discussion, but did you were going to give us an update on our future discussions from last time?
Our future discussions in terms of the workshop that we need to get planning.
Workshop.
for, right?
We have a workshop.
The workshop
Yep,
that we'll be doing relative to the calendar.
Yep, right.
And just the timelines for that, first thing in the fall seems most appropriate, especially if we want to engage staff. I think it's going to be difficult to have staff, as well as everybody's schedules during the summer. So I would suggest that we put onto a calendar that we'll be developing now the meetings and possible topics for next year, that we get that just slated out.
And then there was Wendy's residential requirement.
Right. And I've talked to the secretaries in terms of the residential requirements, and we are going to come back to you with a proposal about how we might be able to manage people reestablishing their residency and what frequency to do that.
Okay.
Part of our challenge around that is just the number of people that we have and the man hours to do that, and it is something that needs to be done by the staff in the buildings. It's not something that volunteers could do. And then just also, what's the motivation for the parents to do it. So I've begun that discussion with the secretaries because it's so important for us to have their input on anything that we're going to do to address that situation. And at the next meeting, I should be able to give you some feedback about what they think or what they recommend is doable in terms of this. Okay?
Yep. And that is it. So I can call this meeting to adjournment. What time is it? Make a motion to adjourn?
Motion. Okay.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, it's adjourned.